Your daughter is clearly unstable, my stepmother Carolyn announced to the hospital intake staff, her voice dripping with false concern. She's been making wild accusations, behaving erratically, threatening family members. We need a psychiatric evaluation immediately. She had my father's power of attorney paperwork ready, my signature forged on commitment forms, and a plan to have me declared mentally incompetent so she could access my $4 million trust fund. What Carolyn didn't know was that the psychiatrist walking into the evaluation room was about to recognize me, and this entire scheme was about to collapse spectacularly. I sat in the sterile hospital room, wearing the clothes I'd been in when Carolyn's hired medical transport team had grabbed me from my apartment that morning. No phone, no wallet, no way to contact anyone. Just me, 2 security guards outside the door, and the growing realization that my stepmother had planned this very carefully. The door opened. A woman in a white coat entered, reviewing paperwork on a tablet. Dark hair pulled back, professional demeanor, reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up at me. Her eyes widened. Diana Whitmore? From Harvard. My heart nearly stopped. Jennifer? Jennifer Martinez? Dr. Jennifer Martinez, my college roommate for 3 years, the person who'd helped me through organic chemistry, who'd been my maid of honor at my short-lived marriage, who I'd lost touch with after she moved to Seattle for her residency, was standing in front of me holding my involuntary commitment paperwork. "Oh my God," she said, immediately closing the door. "Diana, what is happening? Why are you here for a psychiatric hold? My stepmother is trying to have me declared mentally incompetent so she can access my trust fund." Jennifer's face went from shocked to coldly professional. "Tell me everything. Start from the beginning." I took a breath and explained. My mother died when I was 16, leaving me a substantial trust fund, $4 million, that I couldn't access until I turned 30. My father remarried 2 years later to Carolyn, a woman 20 years his junior who'd been very interested in our family's finances from day one. I turned 33 months ago. The trust fund became mine, fully accessible. I'd been careful with it, invested most of it, used some to pay off my student loans and buy a modest condo. I'd started a small nonprofit focused on education access, which was my actual passion. Carolyn had been furious. She'd expected my father to control the money, to have some say in how I used it. When she learned it was entirely mine with no strings attached, she'd started a campaign. First, she tried to convince my father I was being reckless with money. When that didn't work, she started telling family members I was having episodes, that I was paranoid, making accusations, behaving strangely. "What kind of accusations?" Jennifer asked, taking notes. "That she was stealing from my father. Which she is. I have bank statements showing unauthorized transfers from his accounts to hers. That she was trying to isolate him from friends and family. Which she has done. That she was planning something to get access to my money. Which apparently she was," Jennifer said grimly. "Diana, walk me through what happened this morning." "I was at my apartment. Someone knocked, 2 men in medical transport uniforms. They said there was an emergency psychiatric hold ordered by my father due to concerns about my safety. They had paperwork, official-looking forms. They said if I didn't come voluntarily, they'd have police enforce it. Did you see the actual order? They showed me papers with my father's signature. I tried to call him, but they said he was at the hospital waiting for me. I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe he'd had some kind of breakdown, that Carolyn had convinced him I was in danger. So I went with them. And when you got here, Carolyn was here. Not my father. She told the intake staff I'd been threatening her, that I was delusional, that I needed immediate evaluation and possibly long-term commitment. She had more papers, including what looked like power of attorney documents. Jennifer's jaw tightened. "Let me see the admission paperwork." She scrolled through her tablet, her expression darkening with each screen. "This is fascinating," she said, her voice ice cold. "According to this, your father signed an emergency psychiatric hold. But I'm also seeing a power of attorney document dated yesterday, giving Carolyn Whitmore full legal authority over your medical and financial decisions." "That's impossible. I never signed anything giving her power of attorney." "I don't think you did. But someone signed your name." Jennifer looked at me directly. "Diana, I need to ask you some questions for the record. Are you experiencing hallucinations?" "No." "Delusions?" "No." "Suicidal thoughts?" "No." "Have you been using any substances, drugs or alcohol, that might affect your judgment?" "No." "Jennifer, you know me. I barely drink. I've never used drugs. I know, but I need this documented. She continued through a standard psychiatric evaluation, orientation to time and place, memory tests, reasoning questions. I answered everything clearly and correctly. Finally, she set down her tablet. Diana, there is nothing wrong with you. You're completely lucid, oriented, rational. There is absolutely no clinical justification for this hold. So I can leave? You can and you will. But first, she pulled out her phone. I'm calling hospital administration and security. Because what's happening here isn't a psychiatric emergency. It's fraud and false imprisonment. What followed was 2 hours of the most satisfying vindication I'd ever experienced. Jennifer brought in the hospital's chief of psychiatry, the legal counsel, and security. She presented her evaluation, showing I had no psychiatric issues whatsoever. Then she presented the timeline, admission papers signed by my father, who hadn't actually been present. Power of attorney documents with my signature that I claimed were forged. A stepmother who was the only family member present, who stood to gain financially from having me declared incompetent. Hospital legal counsel made one phone call to my father. Mr. Whitmore? This is Amanda Chun from Riverside Hospital Legal Department. Your daughter Diana was brought in this morning on a psychiatric hold you allegedly ordered. Were you aware of this? I couldn't hear his response, but I watched Amanda's face tighten. I see. And did you sign power of attorney documents giving your wife Carolyn authority over Diana's medical and financial decisions? More conversation. Mr. Whitmore, I need you to understand something. Your daughter is here against her will based on documents that appear to be fraudulent. Your wife claimed to have your authorization. If you did not provide that authorization, this is a criminal matter. Amanda listened, then looked at me. Mr. Whitmore would like to speak to his daughter. She put the call on speaker. Diana. My father's voice, confused and frightened. What's happening? Carolyn said you'd had a breakdown, that you needed help. Dad, I didn't have a breakdown. Carolyn had me forcibly brought to a psychiatric hospital using forged documents. She's trying to have me declared mentally incompetent so she can access my trust fund. Silence on the other end. Dad, I didn't sign anything. I didn't authorize any psychiatric hold. Diana, I don't understand. Where are you right now? At home. Carolyn said she was going to visit her sister today. She said you were fine, that you'd called her this morning. I never called her. Dad, she lied to you. And she forged your signature on multiple documents to have me committed. I heard something crash on his end of the line. Then his voice, shaking with rage, put Carolyn on the phone. Now. Security brought Carolyn into the conference room where we'd assembled. She walked in confidently, probably expecting to be told I was being transferred to a long-term facility. Instead, she found me sitting at a table with Jennifer, hospital administration, legal counsel, and a phone on speaker with my father's voice coming through. Carolyn, my father said, his voice deadly calm. Diana says you forged my signature to have her committed. Is that true? Carolyn's face went through several expressions, surprise, fear, then a quick recovery to indignation. Arthur, she's not well. She's been paranoid, making accusations. Is that true? He repeated. Did you forge my signature? I was protecting our family. She's been threatening me, saying horrible things about me stealing from you. Have you been stealing from me? Carolyn went pale. Because Diana mentioned that earlier, my father continued. And I just spent the last 30 minutes reviewing our bank accounts. There are transfers I don't recognize. Significant transfers to accounts in your name. Carolyn, have you been stealing from me? That's not, I can explain. You have 10 minutes to get out of my house, my father said. I'm calling my attorney. I'm filing for divorce. And I'm pressing charges for fraud and whatever else my lawyer tells me I can charge you with. Get out of my house. Now. The line went dead. Carolyn turned to run, but hospital security blocked the door. Mrs. Whitmore, Amanda Chin said calmly, you're not leaving. We're holding you for police. You'll be charged with false imprisonment, fraud, forgery, and potentially attempted conservatorship fraud. You can wait here or in a more secure location. Your choice. Carolyn started crying, pleading, claiming she'd been trying to help, that this was all a misunderstanding. No one was buying it. The police arrived 20 minutes later. They arrested Carolyn on multiple charges after reviewing the forged documents, the fake medical transport company she'd hired, which turned out to be 2 guys she'd paid $500 to pose as EMTs, and the admission paperwork with my father's forged signature. Jennifer stayed with me through all of it, documenting everything, providing her professional opinion that this had been an attempted abuse of the psychiatric system for financial gain. "This is the most brazen thing I've seen," she told the police. "Using involuntary commitment as a tool to steal someone's inheritance. If I hadn't known Diana personally, if I'd just taken the admission paperwork at face value, she might have been held here for days or weeks while this played out." "What would have happened?" I asked. Jennifer's face was grim. "If you'd been evaluated by someone who didn't know you, someone who just read Carolyn's narrative, they might have recommended a longer observation period. During that time, Carolyn would have used the forged power of attorney to access your accounts. By the time the truth came out, significant damage could have been done." I felt sick thinking about it. My father arrived at the hospital 2 hours later, looking like he'd aged 10 years. He hugged me, crying, apologizing over and over. I should have seen it. I should have known she was lying. "Diana, I'm so sorry." "Dad, it's not your fault. She was manipulating both of us." "The bank transfers. I thought I was just bad at tracking expenses." I trusted her completely. He pulled back, looking at me. "Your mother would be ashamed of me for letting this happen. Mom would be proud of you for believing me when it mattered." Jennifer gave me her card before I left. "If you need anything, documentation for legal proceedings, testimony, whatever, call me. What Carolyn did was beyond unethical. I want to make sure she faces full consequences." The legal proceedings took 8 months. Carolyn was charged with fraud, forgery, false imprisonment, and attempted conservatorship abuse. The fake EMTs she'd hired testified against her in exchange for lesser charges. My father's divorce attorney found evidence of over $200,000 stolen from his accounts over 2 years. She pled guilty to avoid trial and got 4 years in prison plus restitution. My father and I rebuilt our relationship slowly. He was devastated by his judgment in marrying Carolyn, by his willingness to believe her lies about me. He paid for therapy, for both of us individually and together. "I chose her over you," he said in one session. "When she started saying you were having problems, I didn't call you directly. I just believed her." "What kind of father does that?" "The kind who trusted his wife," I replied. "She was good at manipulation, Dad. That's not your fault." But it took time for him to forgive himself. 2 years later, my nonprofit is thriving. My trust fund, which Carolyn never touched, continues to grow through careful investment. And Jennifer Martinez is on my board of directors, helping guide our mental health initiative, a program specifically focused on preventing psychiatric system abuse. "What happened to you isn't rare," Jennifer told me at our last board meeting. "People use involuntary commitment as a weapon all the time, to control family members, to access finances, to punish people for divorcing them. We need better safeguards." We implemented a program that trains hospital staff to recognize fraudulent commitment attempts, that requires more rigorous verification before accepting holds, that provides immediate legal representation for patients who claim they're being held unjustly. It's named the Carolyn Whitmore Prevention Initiative, because sometimes the best way to honor surviving something is to make sure it doesn't happen to others. Last month, I got a letter from Carolyn in prison, a rambling apology claiming she'd been desperate, that she'd made mistakes but she'd never meant to really hurt me, that she hoped I could forgive her someday. I didn't respond, because here's what I learned. Some people see you as a person. Others see you as an obstacle to what they want. Carolyn never saw me as her stepdaughter. She saw me as $4 million she couldn't access. And when she couldn't manipulate me into giving it to her, she tried to have me declared insane so she could take it anyway. She failed because of one extraordinary coincidence. My college roommate happened to be the evaluating psychiatrist. But how many people aren't that lucky? How many people are committed based on lies, evaluated by strangers, caught in a system that's supposed to help but can be weaponized? That's why the work matters. The prevention initiative, the safeguards, the training. Because Carolyn tried to steal my inheritance by stealing my freedom first. And the only reason she failed was because someone who knew me, really knew me, was there to say, "This woman is not insane. This woman is being abused by the system." Jennifer saved me. Now we're working to save others. One forged signature at a time.